everyone, welcome to this video. Today we're going to be talking about Arc Dial. This was one of my Patreon videos back in January. I want to release it to anybody just so everyone can see what kind of content is on my Patreon. This video, I think it's powerful because the technique is about using UVs to position animated texture on our model into exact spot, and I think you can use it in so many different ways. So let's go into it, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. We're gonna have fun with this project. As you can see, this project is very simple. There's 3 lights. There is this Arc Dial monitor, camera, and backdrop. Not every project needs to have thousands of things to be impactful, and I think what makes this project beautiful is the sound made by Patreza. Really beautiful sound design for it. Also the simplicity of just gray color and one rope that is very vibrant, making it much more interesting. Let's have a look what the model is. I think the Arc Dial monitor is a great model because it has like a lot of different opportunities, like this display or this beautifully textured ring around it. Let's download this. So when you download this, you unpack this and just drag the FBX into the new. I then take it, Control X, and open up my default, and then Control V, just so I already have the folder structure there. And the first thing I would do, you can see it's really small. So you take your camera and make it 300. So this will already get you close to that. We're gonna have to dial it even more. And I will see like what do we see from the top. So what do we see from the front? And if I press R to rotate, I can rotate it 90 degrees and see how it's looking from a side. So I see I'm perfectly aligned like that. Next thing I want to do, I want to kind of rotate it the other way around, just so I have that ring part on me. Now I'm gonna go middle click mouse button back into our perspective and use that null to zoom in even more and to get some first angle on it where we can work. And if I hold Alt and click and drag, I can just kind of tilt it slightly. Once I'm happy, I can lock the camera in. We can also go to our settings and change it to 1080 to 1350, which will make it 4:5 and give us some more opportunity for better composition. And now you can see that the model has multiple polygon selections that we can choose, like power button, normal, arc dial, plastic, base, satin. So I'm just gonna go and save this, save project as C40 project, Arc Dial. And now that I click on the device, I can delete some of the stuff that I don't want there. And I wanted to keep it clean. So I just kind of highlight that Arc Dial and go into polygon selection and press UL, which means loop selection. And then you can highlight all these polygons, press delete, and then you can keep clicking because the UL is still active, and you can delete all this. Now, what if I want to highlight these arrows because I don't want them and now they kind of levitate there? I want to decide like, okay, maybe I can find them here. Plastic, glass, button, normal, text, power button. And if you go into these selections, you're going to highlight like text and you say select. You will see it will select all those polygons that are attached to this polygonal selection, and you can just press delete and you get rid of it completely. This is perfect because we kind of clean up the model. I didn't delete this one because this would, I think, cause more issues. So I just kept it there, the button. But at this point, the device was already somewhere where I really liked it because I was like, hey, I can do something here. The next thing was, how am I gonna, play this? I was thinking to do animation on here, on there, like in the middle. And when you want to animate on the device itself, you better UV unwrap it. But since we download from Diamond Ziva, the model is already unwrapped. And if I go to UV edit, I can see that this is a bit of a mess. But if I do automatic UV, it will pack it for me. So I can see that this is my dial. So if I click on this one, it will highlight it for me. But you see the button is facing up and here is facing down. So only thing I did, I double click into this island. It will highlight all the polygons that are attached to this island. So you have these, you can attach by double clicking into any of these and highlight all of those that are stitched together. So if I click this and go into rotation, then I can just hold shift and rotate in increments. So I see this works, go back to move tool and just move it back to there just so it's by itself. And now I have it positioned the same way that I have the model here. And this is where we're gonna put our logo. So if I look into this middle part, I know that the logo will be somewhere here. So when I use this 2D texture, I will show you how to export this into After Effects so you can animate on it. You will get like a lot of power just by utilizing those UV maps and, you know, animating into the circle, like all the different stuffs and different data. So I want to kind of empower you to start using this to animate stuff on your devices. So this is a very simple example of how to do this. We're going to definitely use this middle part. The way you do it is that you're going to create new texture in the UV edit mode. So you need to be in UV edit mode. You create new texture. This will just create basic texture. It has this gray color. Then you go into the layer and you create UV mesh layer. And this will imprint the UV mesh onto your layer. So now you've basically created image that has all this information where the 3D model is unwrapped into the 2D space, and you can use it to animate and then import textures back into your 3D. Now, with this done, you can save texture and go PSD or JPEG. So I did JPEG before. So if I save the JPEG, I can go Patreon, logo glitch, textures, and I can do UV wrap. Let's save it and we can have a look at it. So this is a very simple file that we just saved. And now I know where I can animate on this object, because when I import this into After Effects, it will allow me to place the logo correctly. And then when I put this texture back into the Cinema 4D, Cinema 4D will automatically use this texture on the correct place because you are animating within UV texture boundaries, and this will work perfectly. So this is really powerful if you want to do highly detailed stuff that is very custom. We can have a look at it in After Effects. So I import this image into the After Effects, Control I, find your image, and then you simply drag it onto this composition. So it will immediately get the same size as your video or image. And I'm going to go to composition. So if I would start animating on this size, it's only 1000 by 1000. So what you want to do is you want to lock the aspect and you want to do star, so times 4, and it will be 4096. So then you click on that image and then you make it 400%, so 4 times more, and now it's 4K. So at least you know the logo will be decent quality, because the problem you could have that the logo would be choppy and you would see those little teeth there, just so it's not so detailed. So you want to upscale it as much as you can while retaining the same ratio to make sure the Cinema 4D will always use it in the same space. So we're going to have to animate into this space. This is our middle of the, and what I did, I've just import from Figma. So I have in Figma from Patrick prepared logos. What I did, I simply imported them into my scene. So send selection into my scene and then go back to Figma and send selection to AE. So I import 2 logos. You can choose any logos that you want, or you can choose any text on any side, but I decided to go with those 2, and I'm gonna fit this up to 100% so you can see it better. Now I place the logo here and I click on this one, hold Control Shift, drag it, and it will snap onto this. So if you use this parent link and you Control Shift, it will snap into the same place as your other logo. Then you can get rid of this parent. It's up to you. So now I have 2 logos that have same scale. I can make them smaller. I can make them in the middle of that middle line. So I want definitely make sure I'm here. And then I do separation. So that's first Patrick's logo, and then there is a little glitch, and then there is my logo. And for that glitch overlay, I've chopped both parts of that logo. So my logo separately and Patrick's logo separately. So now I have Patrick's logo and my logo, the Patrick, and then glitch, mine. So what you want to do now, you just want to download some glitch overlay. And so I have this sort of glitch effect that I've downloaded a while ago, and I really liked it, and scale it just to the size of those logos, and take all the logo and use it as a matte for both of those in a Luma matte. So this way you get this kind of merge, And you can even like take my logo out, Patrick's logo out. So you're gonna slowly transition into that. So it's just gonna glitch. And now the important part, you have UV wrap texture, so you don't wanna have it there. Now we have a clean texture, and now you have a transparency mode. So it's actually on the transparent background. So it's really important to have this. And I'm gonna make this only 125 frames. So 125, press N, so end, and Control Shift X, and this will do the whole composition to the length that you select, you know, beginning to the end. So you can always do B as a like beginning and N as an end. And now you have this animation. I need to drag back the overlay because it was missing, so it wasn't seeing it. So now I have this, and I did the same thing at the end. So I'm just gonna save this, logo glitch, AE logo glitch, Patreon. So now I'm just gonna export this texture. I know it's transparent behind, so there's nothing behind it. I've turned off the UV wrap, so it's gone. And now I have just this transparent texture. So I'm gonna go to export, render queue, add to render queue. And in render queue, I have a preset for PNG sequence with alpha. The way you do it, you're just gonna go PNG. So you can click on this preset and you make sure in video output, you have PNG sequence. So you have format PNG sequence, and then the channel is RGB. So that's the logos, and then alpha. So there's the transparency. So once you have selected alpha, then you're perfect, you're good to go. And then you click on your name and you go to your project, you go textures, and you go logo glitch. And I have a UV wrap, but I'll change the name to logo glitch 4K. So now that we rendered the texture, we can go back to cinema and we can actually look into our lighting and set up the basic texture. So I'm going to start by adding a dome light. So we're going to have something like this. Then I'm going to make backdrop just to create some physical wall that block the light from one side. So that's why I like to use backdrop for these backgrounds. Just like blue light, so no rounding. I'm just going to keep it very simple. And then for the dome light, I was using this GSG Pro Studio metals. So whenever you're working with metals, it's really good to look into metallic HDRIs because they are a little bit different. They're kind of blurred out. They don't have such a strong highlights, and you see it will make so much difference when you have this one. I'm just going to apply the HDRI tag. So I'm just going to texture drag onto the HDRI tag. It will automatically link up with my GSG. I'm going to open Pro Studio Metals. I like to use this 12. That's something that Ross Mason showed me. It's really cool, and it does really beautiful lighting. And you can push it with the exposure a little bit, and then you rotate this. And you immediately see how with one HDRI, you create a lot of impact, and we don't even have textures applied yet. So that's interesting. I'm just going to save this project again. I'm going to create my own texture. So I'm just going to go material, standard. This is basically my texture. I can do a little bit darker and go metalness fully up, and maybe that's too dark, and just tested it. Let's drag it in there. And now I've replaced the glass button, and I'm just gonna keep dragging and replacing all the parts since I want all the arc dial have that same metallic chrome texture, some sort of brushed metal aluminum. So we'll just keep dragging on this one. I can just keep dragging this. And you see we're slowly getting a nice metallic look. It's a bit dark. So I was very inspired by Daniel Lepik works. So he really does these beautiful devices. What I can do, I can increase roughness here, and this will do the magic of like really making it so beautiful. I can also apply Redshift object tag to this. So do the geometry tessellation just so I can further round these, because I remember this dark arc dial, I could see the individual polygons. So this way with the Redshift object tag, it will all get smoothed out, and now I have this beautiful device. Now when you want to make something to look really fun and technical, you can add more details to it, and I decided to use some models from asset library, and I think it was these screws. It's kind of machine screw, so just kind of double click into it, import it. I need to go back to the object mode. So I did 90 degrees here, make it smaller, even more, and then place it somewhere into the corners using the mesh, which is going to lock my camera actually. I'm going to put on protection tag. So I can see the screw now. So now it's coming like this. I'm going to rotate it slightly and then just click and drag on the other side. And now I've created a little bit more detail just for fun. Just, you know, make stuff look good. So even though if you would do cube and put little screws on it, it immediately looks so much more like a technical thingy. And the same thing applies. We're going to take the same standard material that we've created, apply it to the screws as well, because everything's been done so well. Maybe roughness can go a little bit lower. I can see that we can also increase, and now we're slowly getting into where we want to be. Now, let's say I'm just going to delete all the unused materials, delete unused, and we have only this one. We call it aluminum, and we open it up. So by double clicking, I'm just going to get rid of this. And when we open it up, we want to double click, type in texture, and drag that texture into actually new material. So standard, and we need to call as well splitter. So color splitter will allow us to actually differentiate between the RGB information and the alpha information, or we can just take out the whole alpha and drag it into our opacity. So we have this logo glitch sequence. So if I click on it, it will import a sequence. I need to go to animation first, and I need to change mode to simple. So if I click on the texture, that is an image, you go to animation, mode simple, and change the frame rate to 25. That's what I'm working in, 25, and then detect frames. It will detect 125 frames that we exported from After Effects. So now I have it animated. So now I need to plug it into this standard material. I need to create a material layer that will essentially combine these two together. So I'm just going to create the aluminum as a base material color, and then the texture will be layer 1 color, and with that you take the material layer and plug it into the surface, and now you have the logo there. But you see the logo is slightly off, so then you obviously need to dial it, and you need to make sure that it's in a position that you like. And the way you can do it, since the object is only one color, in this way we can do it here, finding that arc dial, glass, plastic, base, and I can offset the texture. You see, if I click 1% there, 1% up, so I can do 0.5, so minus 0.5, and now I have it somewhere where I like it. It just feels in the middle. And so this is a small adjustment where I know this is the base, this type of the material. It's all same material. It's all looking into the same information. It follows this UV texture, so UV W tag. So if you hold shift and double click, you can preview this tag, and you see that we placed the animation here, so it will always place it here. And this way you can already see we have 125 frames long, and then we have this glitch animation already happening. Now there is some lighting that I've included more. I did some area light on the side, so I wanted to create more highlights from the side. So if I'm just gonna go back, maybe snap out of that camera just so we see it, I'm just gonna make it smaller, push it to the side, make it not that strong, so exposure down, and make it more directional, just so I get highlights on that device. So if I look back to it, you know, I immediately get much more interesting shot where I'm creating those highlights here, highlights there, so I can even reduce it more, and this is super cool. And there's one thing missing that we didn't do, and that is the rope. And the rope is super simple too. So I'm just gonna take this light here into my lights, and arc dial into my objects, and backdrop into my scene, just so I can organize it a little bit better. Now that I have it, it's a fun because I can just jump out and I can create this spline object that I need to make way smaller. And when I make it smaller, I'm just gonna zoom it in, snap out of my camera, and I'm just gonna kind of match the angle as well there. So I'm just gonna rotate it slightly just so it's in line with this. Then I'm gonna go into rectangle and use these and slide the numbers instead. I'm just gonna go like that, go around and increase the rounding. So create spline around this. If I press E, I'm just gonna drag this a little bit up. Now I can create some sort of rope here. The rope is easy. You can just go sweep, hold Alt on the rectangle spline, and it will create the sweep. And then you can create inside polygon, hold Shift, and this will put it as a child in between. And then if you make it smaller, then you can already see, if I put a 0.4, I can already see my rope here. So I have some sort of rope. I'm just gonna increase N side to like 8, and I'm also gonna make it a little bit bigger, so 0.6, maybe 0.5. So if I look at here into this sweep, I have 0.5 actually, and 16 sides. That's a little bit overkill, but let's do 12. We can put a tag on it. But this should be plenty. And again, I was using Grayscale Gorilla materials just to save time. So if I go Redshift node material, I can see the paracords. And I think we can use, for example, this green one. This will look good. And if I just drag it onto that sweep, it will immediately get applied. The only thing is problem, it's super stretched out. So if you just, kind of find where it works the best, I can see here, it's already working nicely. And if I look from this side, now I can see I have something that works and looks as a rope. So you just need to make sure you stretch the texture. So the way you achieve it, you go length V and you drag it down, and you see you tested it. So this looks even better. And now that I have the rope, the way it works, I can maybe focus on the logo. So I go into my camera, get rid of that texture tag and click on the target tag. I can create null and place that null in that logo position. So I know that, I have that null into logo position. So something like this. And then I can go into that target object, name it as a target, go into the target tag and drag the null there. And now I'm focusing on this logo. So all I need to do, go in the beginning, move it slightly here, and then go into the like 90 or like 100 and just move it slightly to the side. And now I can see it's already looking good. Now the rope, you need to make sure you really place it properly, just really tightly with that ring, just so it looks, just so it's kind of carving into it. So there's some pressure. I didn't use any simulation for this. It's really simple. And only what I do is animating the offset V, and you can see the texture is sliding. So if I do in the beginning, offset V at 0%, and then here, offset V 100, you see it's going down. And now only thing I need to do is to look into both of those and highlight both of those and apply some nice curve. So I know I get like this, nothing, and then right? And this is it. We essentially created this animation, and then you only render it out, apply the sound design, and you are flying. Now, obviously, we're moving the camera, but make sure you have these as a child of the object. So if you animate the object itself, these screws needs to be as a child, and then you have the sweep of the rope, which looks good. And the best would be as well to put the Redshift object tag, tessellation, to make it soft, but it can break this texture here. That's why I think increased the N side instead to like 16. And then I've applied the displacement and just made this like 001, 001. So it's slightly there. It feels like a real rope, but it's nothing too crazy. And that's it. You can still keep moving camera like Z distance and stuff like this. So if I want to just position it a little bit more up, or like have a little angle to it, then I can do it. This is the animation. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial. And I think you find it pretty useful with all the techniques that are involved in this. I think it's really simple. It will empower you to put your logos on stuff, to put your animation typography on different places of the devices that you are rendering. And this will make you super powerful. Have a good one and see you in the next one.